What's up, guys? We are back with a big championship Saturday of college football picks for Saturday, December 7th. We have a great video for you today covering 4 key games and giving you my best leans on the side and over-under, and we have a bunch of college basketball games in here also, so make sure to check that pinned comment for all our favorite plays of the day. If you want to win all of your bets here in Championship Week, hit that like button. It's good luck and shows support for the channel and all the hard work we're putting in every single day. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our daily content, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the value of watching these videos as early as possible so you get the best lines. Speaking of getting the videos early, all channel members get early access to all NCAA football and NFL videos, so sign up for our channel membership by clicking the little join button right below the video. Members also get their names up on screen just like right now. I really appreciate the support from all of you. Seeing that badge next to your comments keeps me fired up to bring you the best information on every single sport every single day. Comment below with any bets you're looking at today and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We are committed to responding to every single comment every day, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day, the Big 12 Championship between Iowa State and Arizona State. Iowa State comes into this one, guys. They are fresh off of a 29-21 win last week against Kansas State, number 24 Kansas State, and they finished things up right there atop the Big 12. So a very, very good season from Iowa State. They're ranked 16th in the nation right now, so work to do for sure in that win against Kansas State, guys. It was a kind of close one. I mean, 29-21. We saw, pretty good stuff in the passing game. I mean, completing only 13 of 35 passes. Obviously not good, but 2 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. You could do much worse. We saw very good stuff from the running game, 187 yards there on 43 carries. Sam of the third, a nice day, 81 yards there on 15 carries. He had a 33-yard run, and we saw Hansen with 13 carries for 58 yards himself. Very good stuff out there. Just in general, we really liked what we saw from Iowa State. They controlled the tempo of this game. They did struggle a little bit against the pass. They did a decent job passing the ball themselves. No, individual wide receiver went particularly nuts out there for them, but it was a good day. They turned the ball over 0 times, which is obviously super, super key. And yeah, the offense had a pretty nice day, 29 points. Not going to turn your nose up at that. On defense, giving up those 3 passing touchdowns, like I mentioned, is not ideal, but they did kind of limit the damage. They didn't do an amazing job against the run either. Giving up 144 yards on 31 carries isn't a performance to write home about, but they didn't give up too many, super long runs, and it was just, a decent day from the defense. I'm not going to say elite. I'm not going to say they, locked them down or anything like that, but we did not hate what we saw from the Cyclones there on defense. They didn't force any turnovers, so that's obviously not great, but giving up only 21 points, definitely not terrible, guys. I mean, over the course of the season, they're actually 18th in the NCAA, giving up 19.6 points per game. So that is elite stuff. And they're in the top 50 there in points scored per game. So just a lot of positives here. There's a reason that Iowa State has been, one of the best teams there in the Big 12. They've had a good year, and they're going to keep rolling here, or at least that's what they're hoping, because this is obviously a very, very key game for them as, they go on the road to take on Arizona State, who come into this one, guys, fresh off of an easy blowout there against Arizona. Their last tough game was, against BYU. That was 28-23 win there. They also had a nice win recently at Kansas State. They won that one 24-14. So, yeah, the Sun Devils, guys, especially when healthy, have looked like an extremely dangerous team. Last week in that blowout against Arizona, I know not the toughest opponent there, but, a blowout nevertheless. Arizona State had a very good day. We saw Leavitt, very good. 3 touchdown passes, 17 of 22. That dude's a monster. He has just been killing it all season long and has, come back for some injuries and stuff like that. He's shown some toughness. And we also saw the backup quarterback throw a touchdown pass there, 2 or 3 from him. So that's a positive. And yeah, just crazy stuff in the running game, guys. I mean, we saw their 2 primary runners combined for 277 yards there on 29 carries. 3 total touchdowns. Crazy stuff there. Some very nice days there in the passing game as well. Jordan Tyson, 8 receptions, therefore 143 yards and a touchdown. Just crazy numbers out there in this blowout. You're not shocked to see that. I mean, they turned the ball over 0 times. They were really just taking care of business here, punching their ticket into, the Big 12 Championship. They were not going to mess around there with Arizona. They were taking this one very seriously. And I mean, it's an in-state rival, all that kind of stuff. Plenty of reason for them to really go nuts in this game. Plenty of, reason to just be super, super motivated. On defense, giving up only 7 points is obviously nuts. They gave up 1 passing touchdown, but allowed less than half of the passes to be completed by their opponent. They also did a very good job against the run, giving up 84 yards on 27 carries. Very, very good stuff there. They only generated that 1 turnover. so we're not going to throw them a parade there on defense necessarily. They could have done a little bit more, made some bigger plays, but they held the whole wide receiver group pretty much in check, and really a nice day out there defensively for the Sun Devils, guys. I mean, over the course of the year, they're 33rd in the NCAA, giving up only 21.5 points per game. They're 40th, averaging 32.1 points themselves. They're a good team up and down the lineup, guys. This is a very, very solid squad, and they've played a pretty rough schedule this season, so got to give them plenty of credit here. And yeah, we've got a very interesting game lined up in this one. Looking at the numbers, we see the Sun Devils are 1.5-point favorites. We've got an over-under here of 50.5. ISU, they're 7-5 against the spread this year. They're 6-6 to the over-under. ASU, they're actually 10-2 this year against the spread. They're 7-5 to the over. Guys, we're going to be looking at the over-under on this game. The side on this one and all the other championship games this weekend is going to be over at Stump the Spread, so check that out for sure. In terms of the over-under here, we're looking at the under. I think it's a very good play. Both teams have very respectable defenses like we were mentioning, and Arizona State seems like they want to lean on the ground game here as much as possible. And with two good defenses, two teams that don't mind running the ball, and yeah, I think this is just going to combine into a very close, relatively low-scoring game probably, but I definitely think it's going to be low-scoring. We'll see how close it actually is. We do have a lean on the side over there, so go ahead and hop over and check that out, but we are definitely going to be on the under this one, under 50.5 points. Running the ball leads to low-scoring games. Next up, guys, we're headed a little bit off the beaten path. We have the Marshall Thundering Herd going on the road to take on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns there in the Sun Belt Championship. Marshall comes into this game 9-3 on the season, fresh off a 35-33 absolute nail-biter, an overtime game there at James Madison. Crazy stuff. Just Marshall, I don't know, guys. They've put up a good record over the course of the season, but have they been one of the best teams out there in the Sun Belt? That kind of remains to be seen. It took them double overtime there to get past James Madison. It was a pretty crazy game out there. Braylon Braxton, only one touchdown pass, 120 yards. Marshall really tried to run the ball like crazy, but did not have that much success in their 38 carries. Only 141 yards, a couple of touchdowns there. They turned the ball over only a single time in the game, so that's pretty nice. And they managed to come out on top in this one. So I can't be too hard on them. They got a win in a very crazy, very competitive game on the road. So good job there, but it didn't necessarily fill me with tons of optimism. I mean, on defense, they generated one turnover, but gave up a lot to the pass and even more to the run. So yeah, I'm concerned here about Marshall. I'm not going to lie, guys. This seems like a bit of a rough spot for Marshall. I think they're being a little bit overvalued here as they go on the road to take on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. In my opinion, the best team in the Sun Belt all year long, guys. They won their last two games, not in like ultra blowouts, but pretty comfortably. I mean, they beat Troy 51-30. I know it was Troy, but still. And then their last time out, a road win against UL Monroe. They won that game 37-23. Finishing the year 10-2, not a huge surprise here. We were high on Louisiana coming into the year, and they have really delivered. They played, pretty good last week, that 37-23 win. A couple of touchdown passes, one interception there. Chandler Fields did make that mistake, but the running game was there to bail them out, guys. Zylan Perry, 150 yards on 19 carries and 2 touchdowns. As a team, they had 223 rushing yards on 44 carries. Just dominant stuff. They were going to run the ball, and they were not about to stop. 2 turnovers in the game, something to clean up for sure, but they were dominant out there on defense. They had 3 interceptions. They did give up 23 points. They gave up some to the run. It wasn't crazy though, and they generated those 3 interceptions. So you have 3 turnovers in a game. Good things are probably going to come for your team. Over the course of the season, they're giving up 22.8 points per game. That's easily in the top 50. On offense, so they've been insane. They're 16th in the nation, averaging 35.8 points per game. So we're loving what we're seeing from Louisiana right now, guys. Looking at the numbers, we see they're 5.5-point favorites playing at home. We've got an over-under of 58. Marshall is somehow 10-2 against the spread this year. They're 6-6 to the over-under. Louisiana, 7-5 against the spread. They are 6-6 to the over-under. Guys, this is a slam dunk spot, in my opinion, on Louisiana -5.5. There's a reason the spread has already moved from Louisiana -4 to -5.5, as the betting public realizes that the Cajuns have been the clear-cut best team in the Sun Belt, and they haven't faced much of a challenge at the top. We feel Marshall isn't as good as their 9-3 overall record would indicate, as they dodged playing against Louisiana, Texas State, Arkansas State, and South Alabama, while getting crossover games against weaker opponents Southern Miss and ULM. In their toughest Sun Belt game, Marshall lost against Georgia Southern, but it was a competitive result at least. We will give credit to Marshall for winning back-to-back games on the road against decent opponents Old Dominion and James Madison, but the downside is now this is the third straight true road game here for that Marshall is going to have to play. Fatigue could certainly be a factor for them, especially considering they needed a huge, come from behind effort to beat JMU in double overtime in their last game. We're also pretty low on Marshall on offense, given they rank 116th in the nation in passing, which makes their offensive attack very, very predictable. Louisiana ranks 26 spots higher than Marshall in scoring average and 23 spots higher in scoring. With the home field advantage, along with likely having the fresher legs, I think Louisiana is going to come through here with a very comfortable win and cover, kind of a statement win here at the end of the season for them. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Big Ten Championship game. We've got number 3 Penn State going on the road to take on number 1 Oregon, one of the premier games of the day, no doubt about that. Penn State comes into this one fresh off a 44-7 beat down there against Maryland. A nice bounce back for them after a questionable performance where they could have actually lost there at Minnesota, winning that game by only a single point. Their only loss this season was that 20-13 loss there against Ohio State. In that win against Maryland, obviously, we're not going to spend too much time looking at these stats. It's a little bit meaningless here in this crazy blowout, but we saw the passing game look good. 17 of 26 there for Drew Allar, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. The running game also, Penn State's bread and butter, that looked very, very good. We saw Singleton, 13 carries, 87 yards, a couple of touchdowns there. As a team, they had 219 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground on 49 carries. They did fumble the ball away once. That's not a great look. Mistake you definitely want to be limiting when these games are going to get tougher. But when your defense is giving up only 7 points against a clearly overmatched, Maryland team, you don't have to be too worried. You can get away with some mistakes, but that is not going to be the case here for Penn State. Obviously, going up against an elite opponent, and they've shown the ability to make some mistakes. They've also shown the ability to be a great team. So I don't want to seem like I'm being way too hard here on Penn State. I think they're a very good team. But in that game, they almost lost against Minnesota. They played not horrible. Like, the running game was getting off. Like, they're a team more than content to try and control the game with their defense and their running game. So we'll see if they can continue to do that. They've obviously been very successful this season doing that. They're currently 6th in the NCAA, allowing 14 points per game. They're 31st in the NCAA, scoring an average of 33.3. So we, not a whole lot of reasons here to hate Penn State, but looking at their opponent in this game, they're facing the cream of the crop, the 12-0, number 1 ranked Oregon Ducks. They come into this game obviously undefeated, guys. Their last really premium win, I would say, was a blowout against then number 20 Illinois. They've got a nice win over Ohio State under their belts, but they haven't played necessarily the craziest schedule this season, I'll say. I mean, they played their way through a Big Ten schedule. They played some tough teams. They played some not so tough. They survived a scare early in the season against Boise State, so that was nice. But over the course of the year, I won't say they played the most grueling schedule. This game against Penn State, definitely going to be one of their tougher tests. Last week, they beat Washington 49-21. So, a solid blowout win against an obviously, overmatched opponent. We saw good stuff there from Dylan Gabriel. 2 touchdown passes, 209 yards through the air, a very efficient passing day. We saw the running game look good. Jordan James, 15 carries, 99 yards in a couple of touchdowns there. We saw a total of 5 rushing touchdowns and 222 rushing yards on only 37 carries. Oregon, a team full of athletes, they can absolutely run the ball. They did fumble the ball away once against Washington. That's not a great look. Definitely a mistake you want to clean up, but not a huge problem. And the defense was pretty good. Washington, a very solid offensive team. They put up 21 points in this game, but yeah, I mean, they didn't run the ball particularly successfully, guys. Only 43 yards on 37 carries. We didn't see them go nuts in the passing game, although Oregon did allow them to complete 17 of 20 passes, so that definitely falls into the, I'm a little bit concerned about it kind of category here, but, we'll see if they can work on that a little bit. They generated 1 turnover in the game, giving up 21 points. That's not going to be the end of the world. It's a pretty good day. Over the course of the season, this has been a very good defensive and obviously very good offensive team. Like, all of Oregon's stats are going to look amazing, guys. They've had a fantastic season. There's no way around it, but, like I was saying, they didn't play maybe the toughest possible schedule. So we'll see what they can do here in the Big Ten Championship game, guys. Looking at the numbers, Oregon, they're 3.5 point favorites. We've got an over-under in this game of 50.5. Penn State, they're 6-6 against the spread. They are 7-5 to the under. Oregon, 6-6 against the spread, and they are also 7-5 to the under. Guys, this is another spot we are looking at the under. I like under 50.5 in this game. Both teams have defenses that rank higher than their respective offenses. The Big Ten title, along with a bye and the playoff, is on the line for this one. I wouldn't be surprised to see this lean towards more of a defensive battle, given the two teams we have squaring off against each other. Two very good defenses, two teams that love running the ball. It kind of plays along to the same logic we were talking about earlier. I think this is going to be a defensive battle that probably comes down to the last, couple of possessions. You never know which way that's going to go, at the end of the game, but we definitely think that offense is going to be at a premium. Next up, guys, we're going to be taking a look at the ACC Championship game. We've got number 17 Clemson. They're going on the road to take on number 8 SMU. Clemson comes into this game 9-3 on the season, fresh off of a loss, guys. A very tough 17-14 loss there against South Carolina. That had to be a rough one. They've also lost against Louisville this season, and they opened their season with a blowout 34-3 loss at the hands of then number 1 Georgia. So losing against Georgia, not a super big black mark against you, but that was a little bit of a rough showing. They did not come out of the gates playing particularly well last week in that very tough 17-14 loss against the South Carolina Gamecocks. We saw Klubnik struggle, guys. 280 yards looks good. 24-36 looks fine, but that one interception and 0 passing touchdowns, it doesn't make you look great. He was very successful running the ball, 10 rushes for 62 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but the running game in general didn't look incredible. I mean, we saw Mafa, 20 carries, 66 yards there for him. That's not great, and nobody really had a particularly great time on offense there except for Klubnik. I mean, Antonio Williams caught 8 passes for 99 yards and no touchdowns, so that's not a terrible day, obviously, but we're not exactly going to be riding home or throwing you a parade about that one. In terms of, other offensive contributions, guys, there weren't a ton. We did see the ball get fumbled away once, so 2 turnovers there. That is going to make it really, really tough to win a game against a good opponent. So Clemson certainly has something to clean up there, guys. On defense, giving up 17 points. Not a bad day. Obviously, they generated an interception there. That was nice, but they could not stop the running attack there of South Carolina. Yeah, Lenora Sellers, 166 yards on 16 carries and a couple of touchdowns. They just really had no answers there for the running game. And even though Clemson generated a total of 3 turnovers in the game, it was not enough. They end up coming away with a loss now, and despite playing that game at home. So yeah, a rough look for Clemson. They are, I guess, in a bounce back spot coming into this game, but they cannot feel like they're, flying super high. Over the course of the season, they've been a decent defensive team and a very good offensive one. I mean, 35.7 points per game has them 17th in the NCAA, but giving up 21.6, I don't know. That might be a little bit tough. This is supposed to be a dominant defensive force. We'll see what they can do here going on the road to take on SMU, who have finished their regular season off 11-1 on the year. Or I guess this is technically still part of the regular season, but you guys know what I'm saying. They are 11-1 coming into this game, fresh off a 38-6 blowout win against Cal. The game before that was a blowout at Virginia. They did play a close game, kind of, against Boston College, but they blew out Pittsburgh. They got a 1-point win there at Duke. They had a nice win over Louisville. They just had a very good season. Their only loss this year was an 18-15 loss there against BYU in a game that clearly could have gone either way. Last week against Cal, guys, I mean, 38-6, that is handling business against a 6-win opponent, like not nothing. Kevin Jennings, a good day, 2 touchdown passes. Preston Stone, 1 touchdown pass. They combined for 300 passing yards and 24 of 34 completion rate and 0 touchdowns. So got to give him a lot of credit there. We love what we saw from Brashard Smith, 16 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown from him. Derek Mafal found the end zone as well. We saw good stuff there. Brashard Smith caught 3 balls for 66 yards and a touchdown. Just a very, very efficient, very nice day out there from SMU. They turned the ball over 0 times in that win, and obviously they were dominant there on defense, giving up only 6 points. They shut down the pass. They shut down the run. There's really no notes for me here. I mean, they only had that 1 turnover, I guess. That would be the only problem, but a very nice day for the SMU Mustangs, guys. Over the course of the season, they're 19th in the NCAA in points against, so a very solid defense, and they are tied for 6th. They're averaging 39.2 points per contest. They have been blowing out teams, and they put up some good games against some tough opponents. They blew out Pittsburgh, guys, 48-25, and their win, they had that crazy game against TCU. They won that one 66-42. Like, this is a high-flying offense. Looking at the numbers for this one, we see SMU, they're minus 2.5. We've got an over-under in this game of 55.5. Clemson, they're 5-7 against the spread this year. They're 7-5 to the under. SMU actually 8-4 against the spread and 7-5 to the over. Guys, we are looking at taking Clemson here, getting 2.5 points. Getting them with the points in Charlotte, North Carolina feels like the obvious play, especially considering this should feel more like a home game for the Tigers than it should for SMU. Clemson came up just short last week in a 14-17 loss against South Carolina, but to be fair, the Gamecocks are arguably the best 3-loss team in the country right now and play well above their ranking with Sellers there at quarterback. This might be a hot take, but we value Clemson's Cade Klubnik higher than SMU's quarterback Kevin Jennings. We'll see how that plays out in this game. SMU has gone against a slightly easier schedule than Clemson, and we'd be interested to see how the Mustangs would fare against opponents like Georgia and South Carolina. SMU's defense has been really great in the past couple of games, but against much more capable offensive opponents, the Mustangs have proven they can be schemed against, giving up 42, 27, 27, 25, and 28 points respectively to TCU, Louisville, Duke, Pitt, and Boston College. If Clemson scores in the upper 20 to 30 point range, we feel they'll have an excellent shot at covering the spread. We're going to take Clemson with the points in Charlotte as a solid value bet. Now, guys, we're going to hop over to the NCAA basketball slate for the day. We got some very interesting games over there. Remember, if you want to see more of those college football plays, we've got them all over at Stump the Spread, so hop over there, check those out. Our first NCAA basketball game we're going to be looking at, we have the Kansas State Wildcats, guys. They are going on the road in this one to take on the St. John's Red Storm. This is a very early game, a 10:30 a.m. Central Time, tip. So keep an eye on that one. Be ready there. It's going to be tipping off very early. St. John's comes into this game fresh off of a 77-64 win there against Harvard. They needed that bounce back after a tough loss against Georgia. They played a very competitive game against then number 13 Baylor earlier this season, eventually losing 99-98 in an absolute thriller of a game. Their last time out against Harvard, obviously looking pretty good there against the Ivy League opponent who's had a rough season. Winning that game by 13, maybe they could have played a little bit better. We did like, though, what we saw from R.J. Lewis Jr., 24 points despite going only 1 of 5 from 3. St. John's won this game comfortably despite shooting 6 of 27 there from long range. They dominated the boards. They had a 50-34 edge there on the glass, so very, very good stuff there. Only 10 turnovers in the game, and they shot the ball. I'm not going to say they shot the ball great from the free throw line, and they obviously struggled there from long range, so gonna probably have to shoot the ball a little bit better in this game. I mean, over the course of the season, they've been a very good rebounding team, a very good offensive team, and their defense has been good, but they've got a lot of stats there from cupcake opponents mixed in. So we'll see what they can do here as they welcome in the Kansas State Wildcats, who come into this one fresh off of a cupcake win there against Arkansas Pine Bluff. They had a nice win there over Longwood, but they lost against Liberty 67-65. The Liberty, I mean, they're not that bad of a team this year. We don't really see any premium wins there from Kansas State, so that gives us a little bit of reason for concern. And losing against Liberty, not the best look, and they've got to go on the road for this one, so we'll see what they can do. I mean, in that loss at Liberty, that's the one we're going to look at the stats. This is a slightly, this is part of the Paradise Jam, so weird things can happen in these small invitational tournaments, but we did see Kansas State, they lost this game despite shooting 30% from three-point range. Not, a disaster shooting day. They had a small edge there on the boards. They turned the ball over 13 times, the same number of times that the Liberty Flames turned it over. And yeah, they just could not overcome a little bit of semi-hot shooting there from Liberty. We did kind of like seeing 3 starters scoring double figures, but nobody went particularly nuts in this game. We need Kansas just in general to play a little bit better out there. I mean, we liked what we've seen from David Nguyen in this one, but this season so far, 71% from the field is nuts. 14 points per game is nice, but over the course of the year, not that amazing offensively. Their rebounding numbers are very pedestrian, so we'll see what they can do in this one, guys. St. John's 10.5 point favorites here playing at home. Kansas State 3-5 against the spread. They're 4-4 to the over/under. St. John's 5-3 against the spread. They are 4-4 to the over/under as well. Guys, I do think St. John's is probably going to win this game, but I feel like Kansas State, despite the fact they're playing on the road here, probably has what it takes to keep this game competitive. I'm leaning towards them and the points. I don't think this is going to be a pinned comment play necessarily, and in terms of that over/under of 148.5, probably take the over on that number, but regardless, guys, this game is a little bit of a tough look. I just wanted to throw it in there since it's such a nice early start. Next up, guys, we've got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They're going on the road here to take on the Michigan State Spartans. Nebraska comes into this game 6-1 on the season, fresh off a nice win there, a blowout win over North Florida. They've been tested a couple times this season. They got a nice, really nice looking win there at Creighton. That was a crazy game. They did fall at St. Mary's, against St. Mary's 77-74, but getting that nice win against Creighton. I mean, not a whole lot of teams go into Creighton and get wins like that. We loved what we saw from the Cornhuskers in that one. I mean, they shot the ball pretty mediocre, only 4 of 16 there from the field, 42.1% overall. And yeah, the 37 rebounds, that was an even rebounding edge, but they had some steals. They played really good defense out there. They had only 7 turnovers. They forced 17 turnovers from Creighton. They got homered. They didn't get to shoot as many. Creighton shot less free throws, but we did see Nebraska get called for more fouls. And yeah, just a very nice day from Nebraska out there. We saw 4 out of 5 starters scoring double figures. We saw Connor Esigian score 15 points there off the bench. Just very, very good stuff out there for Nebraska, who come into this game, guys. They're in the top 50 there offensively this season. So loving what we're seeing from Nebraska as they go on the road to take on the Michigan State Spartans, who have played a much, much, much tougher schedule here, leading up to their, this Big Ten schedule. They're coming off of a nice win over Minnesota, a 90-72 win there on the road. They got a nice win the game before that over number 12 North Carolina. Their only losses this year have come against that crazy, tough, I'm not going to say out of nowhere Memphis team, but, an unranked Memphis team that's played great, and then their loss earlier in the season against number 1 Kansas. So we love what we've seen from the Spartans. Good stuff there from Jaden Atkins. Very good stuff from them as a team. Their rebounding numbers are elite. Their assist numbers are very, very good. The ball movement this team has is great, and their points per game right up there with the best of them. So loving what we're seeing from Michigan State here as they get to play this game at home. The Spartans are 6.5 point favorites. We've got an over-under of 147.5. Nebraska 3-4 against the spread this year. They're 4-3 to the over. Michigan State 5-4 against the spread and 5-4 to the under. Guys, I think we've got to take Nebraska and the points here. I think they managed to keep this game relatively close. They're not as battle-tested as Michigan State is, but if you can go into Creighton and get a win, I'm going to be pretty impressed with you. 6.5 points maybe feels like too much. Michigan State's been really, really good this season, so this one's a bit tough to call. Maybe the Spartans do end up coming away with a win and cover in this game, but this is another spot I definitely think we want to go with the over if you're interested in an over-under in this game, because over 147.5 looks very live to me as well. Rolling right along here, guys, we've got the Clemson Tigers. They're going on the road to take on the Miami Hurricanes. Clemson comes into this game fresh off of a huge win there over number 4 Kentucky. They won that one 70-66. Great stuff there from the Tigers. We saw, good stuff. Okay, they shot 32% from three-point range. They kept things even on the boards. We saw a 20 rebound performance out there. 4 out of their 5 starters scored in double figures. Nobody had to go particularly nuts, though. They overcame an 0-for-4 night from three-point range from Chase Hunter. Just a nice night out there in general. They played some very good defense, limiting the very talented Kentucky Wildcats to only 66 points. So great stuff from Clemson in that game. Obviously one of their biggest, toughest opponents of the season. They've got a nice win over Penn State earlier this year. They did lose there at Boise State, but other than that, they've played some really, really good basketball. So we'll see what they can do here going on the road to take on the Miami Hurricanes, who are only 3-5 on the season. They've now lost 5 in a row. They lost against Drake, Oklahoma State, VCU. They lost against Charleston Southern, and they lost their last time out, a 3-point loss against Arkansas. So things have fallen off here for Miami, guys. That was a very close game against Arkansas, a pretty solid Arkansas team, but yeah, Miami lost that game despite shooting 31% from 3. They kept things even on the boards there. Very good stuff there. There was not a lot of free throws taken in this game. They let it be a pretty rough, pretty physical game, and Miami just not able to come out on top there in the end. So we'll see what they can do in this one, guys. See if they can get off the schneid. They're 4.5 point underdogs despite playing at home. We've got an over-under here of 146.5. Clemson 5-4 against the spread. They're 5-4 to the under. Miami 2-6 against the spread. They are 5-3 to the over. I could understand the impulse to take Miami here since Clemson's in such a letdown spot, but I think we got to go with the Tigers here at -4.5. They only got to win this game by 5, a couple buckets, and they should be in the clear. So give me the Clemson Tigers here to continue their momentum and get a nice little ACC win here to get things off to a positive start for them. Next on the docket, guys, we got the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They're going on the road to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Rutgers comes into this game 5-3 on the season, but they've actually lost 2 in a row. But when you look at those losses, they don't look so bad, guys. They lost by 5 points there against number 9 Alabama, clearly one of the best teams in the nation. And their last time out, they lost by 4 points against Texas A&M, another very, very good opponent, guys. They lost that last one 81-77, so very, very tough, very, very close. We saw a great game out there from, Ace Bailey. He put up 24 points. Jeremiah Williams had 20 points there. Really nobody doing much off the bench, and they didn't shoot the ball particularly well from three. Knocking down a few more of those could have really swung things in this game. I mean, they had an edge there on the boards, a 42-35 edge, so that had to feel pretty good, but not able to get the job done there in, the Players Era Festival, the 5th place game. Not where they probably wanted to end up, but hey, there were some tough ones in there, and they played some very good games against some very good opponents. We are a little bit worried about that 1-point win against Notre Dame, and obviously that loss at Kennesaw State doesn't look great either. Over the course of the year, they're putting up, good, nationwide numbers are relatively good, but they're about to be really tested here as they go on the road to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are on a bit of a slide themselves. They've lost their last 2 in a row. They also lost a game against Texas A&M, but that was much earlier in the season. Their last time out, they lost 83-59 at Maryland, so that probably didn't feel great. Just not a very good game there for Ohio State. They are getting back home now. Hopefully that can do something to fix their 4 of 19 shooting from 3-point range. Maybe that can help their rebounding a little bit. They got out-rebounded there by Maryland, and just not a great night out there. I mean, we did see Devin Royal put up 18 points. He played pretty well, but he was 0 of 2 from 3-point range. They just needed a little bit better shooting, and they needed to take better care of the ball. My God, every starter had at least 2 turnovers in the game. So definitely a bounce back spot here for Ohio State. They are 5.5-point favorites. We've got a total here of 153.5. Rutgers 3-4-1 against the spread. Ohio State actually 5-3 against the spread. Rutgers is 6-2 to the over. Ohio State 4-4 over under. Guys, I think this is a great spot to take Ohio State here at -5.5. I think they find a way to pull away from Rutgers here a little bit late, and playing at home should be just the medicine Ohio State needs in this one. I think they can win this game easily by 6 points. With that over of 153.5, maybe side slightly towards the over, but not an over-under spot that I love. Next up, we're going to look at the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They're going on the road to take on the North Carolina Tar Heels. Georgia Tech comes into this game 4-4 on the season, fresh off of a 76-61 loss there at Oklahoma. Number 21 Oklahoma, obviously no slouch, guys. Georgia Tech's had a bit of a rough season. They don't have any massive wins, really. I mean, they took down Central Arkansas. They beat Charleston Southern, which has been an interesting team at different points of the season. A win over Texas Southern. Not a whole lot of big wins here to crow about for Georgia Tech. Obviously, they're playing a very, very tough one here, going up against North Carolina, so we're not necessarily expecting miracles. We have seen good stuff from Lance Terry, 14 points per game for him. Nathan George putting up almost 6 assists per game, but not a lot of amazing stuff, not incredible stats here this season from Georgia Tech as they go on the road to take on North Carolina, who's still ranked 20th in the nation despite being 4-4 on the season. And when you look at their schedule, guys, it becomes very, very clear how that could happen. They have a tough loss at number 1 Kansas. They've got a nice win over Dayton, but they've lost against Auburn, Michigan State, and Alabama. And almost all that loss against Auburn wasn't that close. The loss against Alabama also wasn't that close, but they have played their way through a absolute, murderer's row of opponents so far this season. In that loss against number 10 Alabama, guys, I mean, did see some good things out there. I mean, RJ Davis put up 18 points. Seth Trimble put up 12. We saw Ian Jackson go nuts off the bench. 23 points for him off the pine. Even though he shot 3 of 5 there from 3, they only made 17.9% of their threes. RJ Davis going 1 of 11 there from deep would be a big culprit behind that. So looking at their season-long numbers, what do we think about North Carolina? Like I said, guys, they've played really tough opposition, so their defensive numbers looking terrible is to be expected, but their offensive numbers, they're currently 10th in the nation. So we'll see what they can do in this one. They're 16.5-point favorites here playing at home, though. That's a lot of points, guys. Georgia Tech, they're 2-6 against the spread. They're 5-3 to the under. UNC, 3-5 against the spread. They are 6-2 to the over. This is just too many points for me, guys. I don't know if I'll be on this one in a big way, but I'm shading slightly here towards Georgia Tech getting 16.5. I know they haven't done a bunch of amazing things this season. Obviously, don't get me wrong there, but that's too many points. I mean, they just played at Oklahoma. Like, how much better is North Carolina than Oklahoma? Like, I don't think it's that crazy of a difference. So give me the Yellow Jackets here to keep things slightly competitive. Last but not least here, guys, we're going to take a look at the Virginia Cavaliers. They're going on the road to take on the SMU Mustangs. Virginia comes into this season. They've had a pretty weird offseason. They've had some crazy games. They're fresh off of an 87-69 loss there against number 13 Florida. They had a blowout loss at the hands of Tennessee. Like, they've had a bit of a rough time, a big coaching transition, a blowout loss against St. John's. So we'll see if they can, bounce back a little bit here going on the road to take on SMU. Might be a little bit of a big ask. This team is undergoing quite the massive transition from, their insane defense first and only approach to now trying to kind of play more real basketball. I mean, we saw Elijah Saunders put up a nice day, 19 points, 6 of 12 there from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. And as a team, Virginia shot almost 40% from 3-point range, but they still managed to lose this game by 18 points. So that has to feel kind of bad. They could not defend really anybody there on Florida. It was a rough game out there for Virginia. And when you look at their season-long numbers, it's not going to be too shocking to see that they're really bad, guys. They're not a good rebounding team, not a very good team offensively. They kind of just feel like a squad that's stuck in between two different styles. And, with the big transition and, play style and coaching style, you're going to see that occasionally. And they're not in for an easy time here against the SMU Mustangs, who are 7-2 on the season. They come into this game, I'm not going to say fully untested. I mean, they played a close game against Mississippi State. They played a kind of less close game there at Butler. They haven't played that tough of a schedule. I mean, they've got a blowout win against Washington State. Like, we're not going to throw you a parade for that necessarily. And their last time out, they blew out Alabama State. So we'll see what SMU can do in this one, guys. I think it's maybe a little bit questionable. I mean, over the course of the season, they've put up nice numbers. But like I said, guys, against very weak competition mostly. I mean, in that loss against Mississippi State, an 84-79 loss, like I said, very, very close. But yeah, SMU, we saw 4 starters scoring double figures. They did shoot almost 35% from 3, so that's nice. They got slightly out-rebounded, but we just didn't see them do enough here on defense to, slow down Mississippi State. So we'll see what they can do in this one, guys. The odds makers are very high on SMU. They're 10.5-point favorites. We got an over-under of 135.5. UVA only 2-6 against the spread. They're 4-4 to the over-under. SMU 4-5 against the spread. They're 7-2 to the over. Guys, this might feel a little bit crazy in a Virginia game, but I think the times they are changing. I think I like the over in this game a decent amount. Over 135.5 seems very, very reasonable. I would also maybe shade towards SMU minus 10.5, but I think this is a good spot here to look towards that over. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. Head on over to Stump the Spread to see all the games that we didn't cover in this one, and we will see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.